Fantastic, thank you very much. Mike, sure all the organization is taking place here. This is how it works. Somebody was saying they thought, oh, well, we'd have more people, and what I said was, it takes time to build a network. It takes time to put together the momentum and the group of people that are going to make the changes necessary. So this is an awesome start. The next time you guys get together and you each bring 2 or 3 people, maybe fit into this room one more time, then we're going to need to get a bigger place. And so this is a fantastic start. I congratulate everybody on coming out here to participate. Like Mike said, I'm running for Congress. United States Congress, 15th District, State of Michigan, currently held by John Dingell, Congressman John David Dingell Jr. And a lot of you know about the junior part. He took over for his father. Dad was elected in 1932. I often say, when I'm talking to people, I say, yeah, we're after Dingell, and they say, oh, that's like Scott Brown's Kennedys. I say, no, that's nothing like it. I said, Kennedys were mere adolescents compared to the Dingells. But I'm just like most of you guys here. I've not been involved in partisan politics before. This is my first foray into any kind of partisan politics at all. And my background is in nonpartisan activities, similar to some of these guys here. I've been involved in the Heritage Foundation since I was in my 20s. That was an organization that had an average age of about 60. So when I was in my 20s in that organization in the 1980s, that was a pretty bizarre thing. But that's where I'm coming from. I was involved with the National Taxpayers Union when I was in my 20s as well. And just to get out of the way, I've signed the ATR, American for Tax Reform, No New Taxes Pledge. I've signed the Repeal Health Bill by the Club for Growth. And I grew up in a small town, a little bit bigger than this one, Greenville, Michigan, over on the western side of the state. Little town of about 7,000 people. Had a lot of industry. It had our last big factory, 2,700 jobs go with the closing of the largest refrigerator plant in North America about 3 years ago. That started out as a family-owned business in the late 1800s, and no longer there, of course. And that's a pretty devastating blow to these smaller communities like that, and all the smaller places like Rockwood, which would go to a town like Monroe to have their work. And so I grew up there, public high school, went to the University of Michigan to both undergraduate and medical school. Been in practice of cardiology for about 30 years, 25 years over in Ann Arbor, and. Actually, as of July, I'll be the senior partner in a group that has about 35 docs and 300 employees, and I run the finance committee and all the benefits, and so I understand very well what it takes to run a business, what regulations mean, what it means to live up to the laws and participate and follow the rules. And so we've got that understanding thoroughly down, and we can talk about a lot of that, however you want after remarks here. But I'm like you guys, man, I just couldn't take it anymore. And I look around and see these career politicians never had a job in their life, have no idea how things work. It is absolutely insane, isn't it? We have the people running the country, running $trillion-dollar budgets who've never had a job, never collected a private paycheck, never paid a private paycheck. And if you think, I don't know, my wife's a psychiatrist, and, I just started thinking what she says, if you keep doing the same thing, expect different results. That's pretty much the definition of insanity. So it's time to make a move, and I'll tell you why I'm running. Now, we got any World War II vets here? Fantastic. What service are you in? My grandfather was in the Army in World War I. He was the Lieutenant Commander of the Navy in World War II. My father was on the USS Philadelphia in World War II. And this is my World War II. It's my chance to serve, to take, make a sacrifice. My family's making a huge sacrifice in taking us on. And that is literally, my opportunity to, follow the footsteps of the greatest generation. I mean, I thought it was only fair that I try to take the same effort the greatest generation took to give me the opportunities that I can take that same sacrifice and pass on the opportunity handed to me to the next couple generations. In my practice of cardiology, it is the best part of my practice is talking to World War II vets. I had a guy in the office today, Southeast Pacific, here, 11th Airborne, and made 38 jumps over the Philippines and New Guinea, and had a day the other day, and I had 3 missions in a row. It's just incredible. And I've told this story a couple times, so I apologize right now, but if you've heard it already, but I have one patient, I'm talking to the guy, I say, he's the right age, I say, well, what service, were you in the service? He goes, yeah. I said, well, what service? He goes, Air Force. I said, you weren't in the Air Force? He goes, I was in the Air Force, I was a B-17 tail gunner. I said, man, you were in the Army Air Corps. The Air Force hasn't been started yet. He goes, oh, what are you? We have this big conversation. The next guy comes in, he's got a World War II hat on. And my office staff, they know me, you know, they just say, oh my God, would you give him some other patients? This is ridiculous. We're going to be in here all day, right? And so the guy's going to go up, hey, what's their Army, you know, first, third, seventh. Okay, we go through that whole thing. You have had battle of bulge. Insane, right? I mean, they're having these conversations. And so then I said, well, you know, the key question, well, where did you come into the Europe? He goes, Normandy. I said, which beach? He goes, Utah Beach. I said, Utah Beach. I said, on D-Day? He goes, Utah Beach D-Day. You know, so we have this conversation, the office is going crazy, they can't stand it. They're just not thinking here. And I tell the guy, I said, you're not going to believe this. I have another patient who landed on Utah Beach. And I've always bragged about this guy. And this other guy, it took me 10 years to get the story. You know, he had a bad arm, got shot 2 weeks after he landed on the beach. The humbleness is incredible. And so anyway, I'm talking with this guy and I say, you won't believe this. I've got another guy, and we're talking. All of a sudden I realized I'd seen my schedule. I said, you won't believe this. I'm seeing that guy next. He was on the other side of the wall. I'm out. And everybody out. Red cameras, photos, the whole thing. They were in the same company. Let's give this gentleman here another round of applause. So, that's why I'm running, seriously. My World War II. It is just crazy to think that our generations to come, our grandchildren and our children are not going to have the same opportunity that these folks went through. And when I talk to these guys in the office, I ask them, well, how do you think about, you know, everything you went through and what's going on now, and what do you think they do? That's what I'm doing. They just shake their head. They can't imagine, you know, what's going on. And so, so I had to jump into the fray. And, you know, my background, as I said, was in the Heritage Foundation. I'm a founding committee member of the Southeast Michigan Committee for Heritage, one of 11 committees in the country. And I've had to step down from that because they are strictly a nonpartisan operation, just the way all these groups in the back are. But it was time to take sides. You know, it was, you know, I couldn't keep going on and say I was going to make a big difference and not get out there and do it because, you know, a lot of you have decided to step up. You've said, hey, I'm going to get involved. And a lot of you probably haven't been involved before, and you're getting involved now, and you're excited about it, and it's fantastic. And everybody's going to do what they feel like they're going to do, you know. We've had some help with petitions, thank you, and some other jobs that are going to be coming up, and a lot of volunteers, and everybody's getting involved. And, you know, with 25 years of reading about limited government, free enterprise, individual freedom, traditional American values, and strong national defense through the Heritage Foundation, I thought I was pretty well equipped to go ahead and just run for Congress and take on John Dingell. And I was, Congressman Dingell, you know, I'm certainly not going to say anything bad about him personally. He's an honorable man, and I'll say right up front, he's not nearly as bad as some of them there. But I will tell you that I disagree almost universally with his positions on almost every issue. Is there's just never been anybody challenge him that's had enough money to be able to, you know, raise the money and have a real campaign and point out the fact that he votes against what most of the people in this room and in Monroe County, Washington, Southern Wayne counties believe in and how they live their lives. I mean, he votes against their interests on a virtually uniform basis. It's just incredible. I mean, can you imagine in Southeast Michigan? I mean, I got to agree with Congressman Dingell. I mean, he called cap and trade one of the biggest taxes in the history of the United States. The only thing I can't figure out is why in the world did he vote for it? I mean, we know from data that's been looked at on district by district basis, the state of Michigan, states like ours that use a lot of coal and states that, you know, are energy intense, you know, we are some of the people that are going to get hurt the worst. And it's thousands of dollars per family on some of these things. You know, I don't even want to get started. I mean, I was joking with Mike. I gave him my notes as a blank because I know once I get up here, it's just, who knows where it's going to go. But, you know, on healthcare, boy, that one we'll talk about some other time because that's a multi-time seminar. I've done a couple of town hall meetings on that. We've got another one coming up with Brian Rooney on the 14th, I think, up in Saline. And Brian's a Rock vet, Marine, who's running in the district district next to Ann Arbor against Mark Shaw, one of our new healthcare cap and trade voters in the Nancy Pelosi, John Dingell tradition. We'll have to give it to him as well. You know, and I grabbed this thing from Mackinac Foundation as well, because Mackinac is another great organization. They are probably the most powerful state organization of the think tanks, the Heritage being the behemoth on the national level. Mackinac is the heritage of the states. And it's unbelievable the opportunity that we have to have these guys and the research they do. I heard Dan talk about education. Some of the stuff that Mackinac does on education is incredible. The right to work stuff they do is incredible. You know, their economist, Mr. Linden, who used to be the chief economist for Comerica Bank, great free enterprise man who just can supply the data, join Mackinac, join Heritage, get involved with these groups, because they've got the information where you can talk to people about stuff they just don't understand. I mean, when they get their information from the mainstream media, they have no idea what's going on, right? Because if you know, and how many people have ever read an issue that they know a lot about, it's your issue, it's your expertise. How many times have you read in the newspaper an article that you think that you read it and you say, wow, they really captured that just right. That was exactly how my issue was. Yeah, right. And think about how many different backgrounds we have in here, how many different issues people are expert on, and nobody's ever seen that happen. So in other words, what that means is that everything you read in the newspaper, carry that to its logical conclusion, is inaccurate. And that's the way it is. You know, I'm sorry, that's the way it works. And so, you know, it's been difficult to be able to break the stranglehold, but now with the internet and cable and all of the social networking that's able to be done, I mean, we finally have a chance to break the stranglehold of the mainstream media and to, you know, get people involved and let people know and sneak up on them. I mean, it's going to be great, you know. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. I don't know. You know, some of these guys are talking, we have to stop the spending. I mean, that's just, I'm sorry, that's all there is. We have to stop the spending. We can't afford it today. Our kids and grandkids cannot afford it in the future. I mean, Congress's idea of a good economic plan is to open another charge card made out in the name of our great-grandkids and max that one out before looking around and find another company to give it to. And China, by the way, is not ready to hand out too many more credit cards. And I agree, the HR, was it 1207? Audit the Fed, I'll sign it the first day. No problem. And we just have to come to grips with the idea that on a lot of these issues, you know, you can't get everything you want right off the bat. I mean, ask Saul Alinsky and his rules for radicals in our current administration. I mean, they were biting it off a little at a time, and now they're rushing headlong. But, you know, to audit the Fed is a fantastic idea. People have no clue what's going on there. You know, it's a private bank. People print money, handing it to their friends, who then give it back to them to re-elect them again. And this nexus between Wall Street, the financial industry, the Fed, I mean, all you have to do is look at the federal government. It doesn't make a difference Republican or Democrat. And let me just say, I'm running on the Republican ticket. I don't even know if anybody knows that. That's why you know, because when it came time for me to go ahead and look at getting involved, you know, I look at running as an independent, but it's pretty much impossible. You can't raise the money. You've got no way to, you know, even getting on the ballot is difficult because who writes the rules? The parties write the rules, so of course you play by their rules. And so there's absolutely no question that when you look at the two parties, you know, my involvement with Heritage and some of these other groups, that I would certainly align more closely with Republicans than the Democrats. But there is certainly no love lost between me and in either party with this idea of these crazy career politicians who've never had a job before, who think their ideas are successful. I hear all the time about, oh, well, down south, you ever read these things when they analyze Congress and say, oh, Michigan has all this power because you got, you know, Carl Levin. You had John Dingell, the head of, you know, energy and commerce, and now we've got Sandra Levin, the head of you know, Ways and Means in the House, who took over for our good friend Charlie Rangel. And Charlie is very illustrative. Charlie was a war hero in the Korean War, and when he went into Congress, he beat Adam Clayton Powell, who was up on corruption. And Charlie Rangel, when he went into Congress, was conservative. And this is what happens when you live with a lobbyist and when you live with no rules and you get to do whatever you want and have nothing apply to you. I mean, it's incredible. You know, they have no idea what it's like to run a business and make a paycheck, have a payroll, live by the rules, regulations. I mean, now Congressman Dingell's trying to introduce this new mandated food, this big food thing he's trying to pass, where farmers are going to have to pay $500 to be able to sell their produce by the side of the road to their friend driving down the street who wants a fresh tomato. I think there's a few farms in this area, isn't there? Barely. I mean, how crazy is stuff like that? I mean, they're just operating in an alternate universe. They just have no idea. So this spending stuff has just got to stop. I mean, it's incredible how much difference. This is what it's like. This is the United States government 2010 budget. You know, we talk about Greece and how bad they're doing. We're racing downhill to catch them in a hurry. But the 2010 budget is the equivalent of a business that has revenues of $60,000 a year. They spend $105,000 a year and plan on that. They already owe about $400,000, and they got a bill collector circling the industrial park looking for their business so they can hand them a bill for $1.7 million in unfunded liabilities for Social Security and Medicare while making $60,000 a year. How's that going to work out? Yeah. This is what they don't want you to know. Our kids and grandkids have no crack at what we thought was an opportunity to succeed, work on your own to the level you chose, and be successful. And they're not going to have that opportunity. Not with a budget structure like that. And some of the other folks talked about this whole idea of you know, who knows how to spend their money better? You know, family or the government. I mean, I'd say all the time, look, I mean, I pay ridiculous sums of taxes. And my business, the whole thing, my wife, she's a doctor. She works part-time, she doesn't work full-time, because her tax rate is 60.5 cents. 60.5 cents. How much would you work if you had to give 60.5 cents? How many employees would you hire if you had to pay 60.5 cents? And you're wondering, how could it be 60.5 cents? Because you hear the tax rate's 38, but when you own your own business, you got to pay Social Security coming and going. That's another 15.8, and then you got to pay unemployment of fractions here and there. Then you got state at 4, then you got corporate tax, and you got federal and state unemployment. I mean, you tell me how hard you're going to work under that situation. And the fact of the matter is that if her rate was only 40%, tomorrow she would hire 2 employees. Now, the federal people working in the federal government, they don't understand this. And of course, why should they? They've never had a job or run a business. That my wife, you know, who went to school for 14 years, should be able to go out and work and be able to keep some of the money herself. And my wife is just an example. I mean, there are lots of 2-income families. It's just a classic. I mean, you wouldn't want to encourage. You know, why would you want to penalize people for being married? Right? If we had the exact same business and we co-owned some big corporation, I could see where we'd be at the same tax rate. But when we have 2 completely independent businesses, why in the world, just because she's married to someone else who's successful, should she be penalized? I mean, where are the feminists on issues like this, right? I mean, you would think that the feminists would want a woman who's a successful career gal to go out and be successful and show it to her. You know, they don't understand, and why would they? Because they just don't know. And it's not necessarily that they're not intelligent, but hey, I mean, your experience shapes your view, right? And if you've never had the experience of actually having to work for a job, work for a living, why would you know that people change their behavior based on whether or not they get to keep the money or whether it goes to someone else? And I've always been a big, you know, you tell me who in town needs the money, let me stroke them the check, right? Let me give them the $1,000. Don't have me send $1,000 to the government and have the guy get 40 cents instead, right? While 60 cents goes through that. I can tell you there's nothing more discouraging than going to D.C., spending some time around the Capitol and seeing these buildings filled with people who are, I don't know what that yeah. I mean, this whole notion that the government with a straight face says, well, we are going to increase the regulations to the people who let, you know, these things happen, who let, you know, Bernie Madoff Steele too. I mean, you know, the federal government, of course, you understand, I know this room understands, that Social Security and Medicare is run exactly like the Bernie Madoff investment scheme. The only difference is it takes the federal government somewhere around 12 minutes to do what it took Bernie Madoff 30 years to do. But it's the exact same method. It's the exact same strategy. You take the money from the person who's paying it now and you pay it out to the other. And that's going to collapse, and that's where that 1.7 million in the example of a $100,000 business comes from. I mean, that's just how you break it down into numbers you can see. Because then a lot of you heard Congressman Dingell talking with Paul W. Smith when Paul W. asked a very fair question of this healthcare thing is so going to save so many lives, why would you wait 3 years to put it in? And what Congressman Dingell's answer was, he said, well, you know, we're going to have to take care of 300 people, and it'll take a long time to set up the bureaucracy and administration to be able to control the people. That was the end of the sentence, right? Well, there was two things in that sentence that he said. First off, I mean, obviously, control the people is a little scary. But the other thing he said was 300 people.
Yes.
Now, what did he mean?
300 million.
300 million. Yeah, he meant 300 million, but that just shows you how long people like Congressman Dingell have been in office, because the difference between 300 people and 300 million people is the difference between 1 million and 1 trillion, and they have no idea what the difference is. So we have to stop spending. We have to let people. When this all started, I was going to say, I hear all the time about how powerful the congressional delegation is from the state of Michigan with all these chairmen. And the reality is the state of Michigan, over the last 40 years, if you take 35 years going to 2005, over that 35 years, the state of Michigan ranked 45th or lower in the amount of money returned to their tax dollars. They sent $1 to Washington, and over that 30 years, averaging 80.5 cents in return. So I would say the fastest way for the citizens of Michigan to be able to make their way is to quit spending the money to Washington, keep it in your own pocket, you'll be 20 cents ahead right off the bat, and be able to take care of some of these things that you need to do, like paying the mortgage, buying food, sending your kids to school, and taking care of the charities that you want to do. Because we certainly don't need the federal government to skim off the money before and take $1 from us, give us 80 cents back. Just let's keep the money here, keep the whole dollar, spend it the way you want. So stop the spending. We have to increase the accountability of Congress. They have to follow the laws they pass. They don't follow the laws they pass. They are exempt from Social Security. They are exempt from the EEOC rules. They are exempt from all the work rules. They have their own health care system. They exempt themselves from virtually all the rules. And how in the world can they ever fix a problem if they're exempt from the crisis that occurs from the laws they pass? They have to follow the rules. I mean, how can it be any other way? I mean, it strikes to the whole concept of the founding fathers and the citizen legislature. They were the ones running business, expected to go there, knowing how business works, knowing how you survive in the world, knowing how you take care of your family, and go there with that understanding, pass the laws, and then go back and live under those laws you passed. What we see now is this revolving door between, well, revolving, I mean, Congressman Dingell's been in the same door for 40, 55 years. We will be happy to give him the gold watch he deserves this fall on the 3rd. But if only these people would do that, right? I've had people ask me, well, how long are you going to stay? I can tell you this. I can absolutely say for certain that I won't be there in 55 years. But the only reason is because this new health care bill. I mean, I'm 52, and I fully expected to be alive 55 years. Now, if we had normal technology and normal health care delivery. But now, with the government being involved, the research and development is going to come screeching to a halt because of the new taxes placed on the technology and the new devices and on all the research. And so I can't count on being alive in 55 years anymore, unfortunately. But no, I would not be there more than 12 years, absolutely maximum, but I can't see even being there that long because you can imagine how frustrating it would be to be one of the only guys that has any common sense and knows how to So we got to take care of spending, we got to take care of accountability, we got to have transparency. Auditing the Fed is an example of transparency. We got to have these laws, people have to know what a beneficiary is. I mean, the job description of a legislator is to legislate. And the definition of that is to make and pass laws. And how in the world you could call yourself a legislator passing a 2,700-page bill you haven't read? I mean, in the world of medicine, imagine you come in to your doctor with a chart. The doctor doesn't open your chart. They barely listen to you. They say, go get these tests. Here's your problem. What would you call that? Malpractice. And what we have now is nonstop legislative malpractice. We have people calling themselves legislators who don't read the bills. It's incredible. And all you have to do is look at, and what people who have lived in the real world understand, is about unintended consequences. And when you go to D.C., you see these army of lobbyists and advocates who they're trying to fix the things that are broken. And you heard Nancy Pelosi say it, right? Well, let's pass this bill so people can find out what's in it. And then we'll fix it. Well, that's not going to fix anything, right? And so we have to take care of it. The bills have to be short, they have to be concise, they have to be focused on the issue at hand. They have a 2,700-page bill. The unintended consequences in every line, let alone 2,700 pages, you can barely fathom, right? Spending, accountability, transparency. It's time to take Congress back. It's time to restore the return it to the citizens, we the people, with the consent of the governed, restore the voice of the average citizen taxpayer, and send to Congress, instead of a career politician, send a career taxpayer, a career business owner, a career citizen, someone who knows what it's like to live under the laws, and will go live under the laws once again. Thank you.